Happy Breeders' Cut. I'm going. We're going purple here, my friend. We're going purple.
Yeah,
How are you?
I'm doing great. Breeders' Cup week, one of my favorite weeks of the year. I put it up there with the Masters, opening weekend of the NFL, and right up there with the Kentucky Derby week, leading off the Triple Crown. So this is exciting, an exciting week for us. And man, my brain hurts from everything that both you and I have been doing for the past couple of weeks, getting prepared for this, for
Yeah,
the
we're
Breeders'
going. We're
Cup.
going to Lexington. We're gonna. The first thing I just wanted to call out is I always look at is the weather report, Eddie. And what's the weather looking like in Lexington, Kentucky this weekend for the Breeders' Cup?
Well, Friday is definitely going to be perfect. It looks like it's going to be in the morning. It's going to be about 50 degrees and warm up to about mid 70s. Saturday still looks really good. It might even look better because they're not predicting any rain. Nice cloudy, partly sunny skies. So that should be fantastic for not just the fans in attendance, but for the horses. So we don't see any of the horses sweating and getting overheated or anything like that. So cross your fingers. Hopefully, we have a great 2 days of weather and racing.
I've been running the pace sheets. I don't know if every day, but pretty darn close to every day. And I've been looking at it. I feel like the pace sheets have been pretty good. I think Keeneland's playing pretty fair now. What are your thoughts on Keeneland right now?
No, it's definitely been playing pretty fair. I mean, a lot of times there's an inside track bias at Keeneland. I haven't really seen that too much this year. I think weather has a lot to do with it because it's been pretty dry. They actually got some rain yesterday, so I think that's going to help. It's going to help the turf course quite a bit. It's going to soften it up, but I think it's still going to firm it. It's going to be very firm for the weekend races. But yeah, the pace sheets have done well. I've used them and done pretty good. I haven't been betting very much at all. Got a couple other things going on here, so but I've been using them in conjunction with the notebook picks and making my plays, and we've been doing pretty solid on them. And I think Keeneland's been playing fair. Uh, the one thing well before I well I'll go ahead and say it real quick. We you and I have talked about this. The last 2 years, the Breeders' Cup's been held at smaller tracks per se, like Del Mar last year and Keeneland the year before, and now we're back here at Keeneland. I think next year we go back to Santa Anita. But when you handicap these cards, and I take it into account, you got a smaller track, tighter turns. So I look to have horses that are near the lead, on the lead, maybe mid pack at worst. These two tracks, Del Mar and Keeneland, are not conducive for closers. So that's how I handicap this card. There is a couple closures I did use to pick up pieces, but not to win.
So Eddie's referring to we have the package up at www.pacesheets.com. I think most of our listeners have probably been over there, checked it out. We've been offering a lot of things for free. And we have the pay sheets for not only both days, Friday and Saturday. Eddie C's notebook picks will be part of that, where Eddie has gone through and Eddie's done all the heavy lifting with not only the handicapping, but the big piece is watching the replays. Eddie, what do you see on the replays? What have you been doing on that front?
Well, in the replays, again, I've spent a lot of time on this. Probably I've spent more time on this Breeders' Cup than any other. Uh, when I look at replays, you always have comment lines, be it whatever you're using, Brisnet, DRF, whatever PPs you use. There's always comment lines on there, and the comment lines, it's some nice information. But I'm going to go through one particular horse today, and I'm going to give one particular pick today. The rest of it's you're going to have to go to Pace Sheets and take advantage of the special package we have. But I look at sometimes it says a horse was blocked, a horse did a horse checked, or a horse had to swing 6-7 wide. Okay, great information there, but if you watch the replay, you're going to see a few things differently that are going to either help you like that horse more, or maybe go, no, that horse had it easy. Don't like the comment line. I'm not going to use them. So watching replays kind of just lets you see the race in action.
Eddie, the other thing I would like to, explain is obviously what I define as an old school handicapper. You're really good at looking at the PPs, going through the data, making that analysis based on experience and patterns and different things that you see. Tell me the process of what you do, looking at the PPs, looking at the replays, and then how are you incorporating this pace sheets data with the graphs and everything?
Okay, so the first thing, I mean, a lot of people, being old school, first thing I do is look at the conditions, read the conditions of the race, see what it says. Obviously for this weekend, we're all talking about graded stakes racing, so the conditions are pretty, black and white there. But typically look at the conditions, see if it's a non-winners of one, non-winners of two. They haven't started in so long, or they haven't raced in a certain qualifying race lower than this and things like that. So you got to read the conditions a little bit like that. Next, the first thing I do is I just look at breeding, because there's certain horses of breeding that I follow very closely. So without looking at the odds or anything like that. And by the way, I try to handicap early in the week before the odds are posted, typically on a Wednesday for a Saturday card, because then I won't be influenced by the odds. So I'll look at the breeding. And one of the things that I do as I start looking at PPs from previous races is I first try to eliminate some horses before I choose a horse. I try to eliminate horses because then that narrows down the field to me. It narrows down the number of horses. And then from there, I will start looking at some replays. But the great thing about pace sheets, Chris, the way I incorporate it with my handicapping is I look at I look at what you put together, because the great thing that you put together is you put together total pace, you put together early pace, and then you put together late pace. So it gives you an idea of where the early speed is supposed to be and where the late pace is coming, and then you have your total pace, because your total pace is going to incorporate sometimes horses that aren't early or aren't late. So that gives you a couple of ideas, make some notes, and then go back to your handicapping and incorporate the two. And for me, it's been a winning proposition all around.
Okay. And I will tell you that, I've done many things with this. And one of the things I've done back in the past, this is years ago, I can remember trying to see if there's a way I can take a shortcut so I don't have to sit there and spend, I mean, literally back in the day, I would spend 3 to 4 hours handicapping a card. And it wasn't that big a deal when I'm on a plane or something like that and I get ready for the Saturday of handicapping. But I wanted to figure out, is there a way to simplify data so we are not getting overwhelmed with data? And I'm not going to knock anybody else on what they're doing with their, different shapes and, different stuff and data. But I can tell you, on a situation like the Breeders' Cup, everybody's going to throw something at someone. I mean, there's more PPs, data, workouts. There's 8 million things coming at you, and you can certainly get oversaturated with data and complicate things. The goal here is to keep it really simple. And Eddie, I wanted to share a couple examples of some pace sheets, and kind of what you get when you're looking at the Breeders' Cup and what we have available out there. So I wanted to share.
Before you do that, wait, go back.
All right, I'll go back. Here I am.
Just want to let everybody know I got my V8, so I'm going
Yeah,
to
but
go
it's
ahead and
not. Yeah,
pop
but
this up there.
I told you you don't eat the spicy. If you had the spicy V8, you'd be a machine. So when I show the pace visual, this was Keeneland, I guess. I just pulled one at random. I am not just looking at the data and say, okay, I'm gonna take the 11, or I'm gonna take the 13. I'm gonna take whoever is at the front here, because we all know that when you get up to this top right corner, that's usually the best place to be.
Mm-hmm.
And this is your early speed box, and then you think of your total pace. So your best horses are going to be up in this neck of the woods. Now in this race here, I just wanted to call out, so nobody stands out. I'm looking for gaps in all these things. I want to see some gaps, and I want to see if anybody stands out versus the field, stands out versus certain horses, because those are my strongest opinions. Then I can go back and I can meld some things up. So the reason I picked this race is, first off, there's a gap right here on late speed. Now the pace here was honest. It was on the dirt. So, late speed is chancy, but I want to call something out down here. And somebody put this on Twitter earlier. I'm looking at some different ways. This after the Breeders' Cup is over, I've got some other thoughts and ideas on how to make this information better. You'll see I just added some pedigree information for rank at distance and surface.
Yeah,
We have this.
Chris, that's great because, like I said, when I first handicap, I'm
Mm-hmm,
looking at breeding. I don't know who won this race, but I would tell you, I would have used the 9 for sure because he's out of Army Mule, who's proven to be one of the best young sires right now.
mm-hmm,
I would have probably used the 8 a little bit if he looked in form because Twirling Candy out of Candy Ride,
mm-hmm.
who, as you know, is part of your favorite horse gun runner's lineage. So I definitely would have looked at those two horses. Man, there's some good breeding in this. There's some great sire lines in this. You got Midshipman, the Factor, Bayern, and Tisnow. So, but that's one of the things I do. And then, but I didn't want to jump. I'm glad that you've added this in there. That's fantastic.
So I want to show. So spoiler alert: the 9 won the race. But listen, there's nothing that's going to be a foolproof guaranteed angle. But I want to show something now. First off, from a form standpoint, actually the 11 fits the form. I think this was a maiden, right? Yeah, this was a maiden race. So you got to be careful because you got to remember all these firsters. There's no data. And we were
Right.
talking about this earlier today that when we talk about the Breeders' Cup card, there's going to be some examples with a bunch of Euros. And I'm going to look at seeing what I can do to incorporate that to call that out. But if you don't see the horse on there, you have to go back to the PPs and figure it out. I don't have the data to go into the pace sheet. So what I do want to call out is all these first is obviously, but I want to call out the form. So actually 11 and I'm looking at the days between races. I mean, most of these horses, no one's off a long layoff, so I'm not concerned about that. But there's one little thing here that I've gone back and I've used over the past couple years. When you see a horse that's top 3 in speed in their last race and also top 3 in distance, it's highlighted with an X. And I want everybody that's using the pay sheets to pay attention to that. I'm not saying these are locks every time, but what I will tell you is more often than not, these horses are the ones that win. These are the horses that finish in the money. And you probably want to include them. What I like about this race is that's the only one in the entire field that fits the criteria. Now, you got to take that with a grain of salt because, again, we've got 5 firsters in the field. But I want people to pay attention to that, especially when you have experienced horses. You're going to see that, hey, that if I feel that that horse is in form, has had some good works, I want you to key in on that piece of it. So that's a good little angle that we use. And the other thing that will get added on the comments, and this is before I think this happened, but anything that you had that's determined as trouble. Now, Eddie just called it out. Well, a lot of times these comments, they're not exactly the most detailed comments, and a lot of times they miss a lot of things, but it's an indicator. When you see trouble, you'll see on our pay sheets today that when you pull these up, you'll see that when horses go wide, 3 wide, 4 wide, 5 wide, 6 wide, lunged, step slow, and you see this trouble, it will be highlighted in red to call that out to you that maybe that's a race you want to go back and do some more handicapping on. So I wanted to share that one, Eddie, that I wanted to show. Here's another one here I want to show. This one's kind of an obvious one, though. Who would you take in this race, Eddie?
Well, you've got the huge gap and the huge bubble on the 12. So I mean,
All right. Well,
looks like a standout to me right there.
Don't incorporate it into the race. I handicap is my style, the way I always have done it. Then I go back and I start validating what does this look like? Why am I tossing this horse out and going back to figure out what's happening on that front? So if I was looking at this race, and I'm going to be honest with you, if I'm looking at this race, it's 6.5 furlongs on the dirt. I would look at the 4 because he's got the best early speed. The 1 we know is early speed with the E. So I'd certainly consider that one. But 8, remember, algorithm, bigger bubble, better. The computer says, yeah, this horse is probably more likely to win. total pace, which is probably the most important thing on here a lot of times, unless you got something going on with a really hot speed duel. So let me just show. So whenever you look at, I love this chart here. This is the main chart. What I love about this is I'm looking at a race out of the gate, and I'm looking at the early speed. I'm looking at it, and I can visually put in my mind that, okay, it's 4, the 10's a presser. He's got pretty good early speed, and the 1. And then I can shift my eyes the other way, and I say, okay, from a total pace standpoint, this is the finish line. This is what it looks like. So I'm thinking right now the 4 has the best early speed. I'm going to look at it and see what I got there. I'm going to look at the PPs. And it's the same thing here. Like I had some examples down here. And by the way, when you see 2 stars on a horse, just want to make sure everybody knows what that is and what you means, Eddie. That means that's days between races, 75. The horse met its form. So I would look at the workouts. The other thing means this is a class dropper and it showed early speed last race. So there's some things in there that maybe the tutorials and the videos, and I need to update some of that stuff. It's in there. It just is a reference data to look at, to go back and look at it. Now this race finished actually, Eddie. It was the 8, the 10, and the 11 is how this race finished out.
Let me pull it up.
I think it's the 9th.
I want to say that it's the 9th, 10th. Yeah, probably the 9th.
So what horse?
Clairiere.
Clairiere. I got your comments.
I mean, we've got Ness, we've got Malathat in that race. I mean, it's going to be a very contentious race. A lot of people think Ness wins. A lot of people think no, Malathat is back in form.
Mm-hmm.
But the comment line on Clairiere, what is it? What do you have it set?
Very fractious at the gate. I guess INS must mean inside or something, right?
Okay.
What that means?
So here's what I want everybody to do. Everybody who listens to this, go watch that replay and watch it a couple of times. Clairiere banged its head on the gate very badly. Probably got a little concussed because that horse after that just kind of galloped around the track, tried to close a little bit, but just had nothing left. Took all chance out of it right out of the gate. And that's what I mean about watching replays. Clairiere was coming into that race in really, really good form. Had beaten, I think, Malathat once or twice in that going into. Yeah, he'd beaten Malathat the last 2 times going into that race, and beaten Search Results. 2 super good horses. Just lost to Latruska, but this is a horse that I think is going to get overlooked a little bit this weekend. So I'm not telling you who I'm picking yet. I'm just saying, go watch the replay of Clairiere, and that's what's going to give you one of the main reasons why I watch replays. The comment line doesn't give it justice as to what happened to that horse.
Makes sense, Eddie. And another horse you brought to my attention too was the story of this horse. It's coming from Woodbine.
Yeah, this is I'm going to go ahead and get and give it out to you guys just so you know. This is one of my picks this weekend. It's a horse I like quite a bit, and we're gonna get a nice price on this horse. And I'm talking about Caro Consort, juvenile filly and turf, going 1 mile.
Okay.
And this horse was second in the Grade 1 Natama, which was run at Woodbine last out. Was beaten by Last Call. Interestingly enough, in this race, even though Last Call beat him, Caro Consort is lower odds than Last Call. But it's not just the horse. This is a great story. You've got a trainer, a smaller operation up at Woodbine, has been there like 20 years, and I'm trying to pull up his name again.
It's Squires, Nathan Squires.
Yeah, Nathan Squires. So they went to the Keeneland yearling sale, and with Thompson, his owner, and they were looking, and yearling sales usually, they go for prices, but This horse went for $95,000, and that's a big price in the yearling sale. And on top of that, Squire said, "We're not leaving without this horse." So it was a little bit out of the owner's, out of what he wanted to spend. But the great thing about this is, and the great and sad thing about this is that they've already said that after this race, win, lose, draw, whatever may happen to the horse, so long as he comes back sound, is they're going to sell him right after the race, the following week. And, for Nathan Squires, it's a horse of a lifetime for him. So I'm rooting for him to win. And I hope that if he gets sold, that they give him an opportunity to keep training the horse, because he's done nothing wrong with this horse. He's had a tough trip in his last, and this is another one I watched his replay. The replay said that he was blocked at the quarter pole or something. This horse got stopped 4 times during that race, and when he finally got through, he came running through, but then flattened out at the end, came second by a length. I think if he had had a clean trip, undoubtedly, I think he would have won. And you get an upgrade in the jockey switch to Rosario. So I think there's a lot of good things pointing to it. I think it's a feel-good story. I wouldn't be surprised if I believe it's NBC coverage on Breeders' Cup Day is going to showcase this horse and the story behind it, because it's a pretty darn good story for a smaller outfit. So my heart's rooting for them, but at the same time, my handicapping brain thinks that this horse has a big shot at what could be a nice price. I think it's 12-1 morning line, or 15-1 morning line, something like that, 10-1.
It's a nice story. I think that, and I didn't know about the story. I only looked at it as the pace sheets, and I will tell you the horse looks pretty good on the pace sheets as well. You'll have to get the pace sheets and look at that race yourself. But I love everybody loves the story of the underdog. And I am certain that NBC already knows about this. And you shared this link with me from the Toronto Sun, and we'll see if we can put this out on Twitter already. It's a really nice read, and it's one of the feel good stories. We talk about all the negative that happens in horse racing. This is actually one of the feel good stories that is pretty nice to see.
Absolutely. So there's my tease for you guys. There's my one pick that I'm giving out, and hopefully you guys jump on board. And one thing to keep in mind with what we've done here, Chris, I know has put in a ton of work, but for the Breeders' Cup, not only am I putting out the notebook picks, but I have comment lines underneath each pick. To hopefully that better serves you all in understanding why I'm picking this horse, pointing out a few things. So hopefully you guys appreciate the extra work that we put in for that.
Yeah, no doubt, Eddie. And the site again, paysheets.com, will get you there. I'm watching that countdown clock now for about the past 45 days, just for the record. But it's crazy how fast this whole Breeders' Cup just came on with us. But the pay sheets are right here. You get the whole package. You'll see that you go to the store, you can get everything there. Not only is where we're going to have the pay sheets are also going to show the top gaps. So when we have horses, and that's the advantage I feel about the pay sheets, is when people put the data out, yeah, there's scratches, and I've always been one of those guys that enjoys scribbling on the program to cross out, this horse isn't going to be in the race. But people forget the entire dynamics of a race can change so much from one scratch, one horse, something happening. Well, now it's a whole different scenario. And a lot of your casual handicappers are not going to know that. And this is what the advantage is. For me, I'm a pace handicapper. I've been studying this for a long time. I just love the pace, but you're going to get the gaps. You're going to get the pace plays on Friday and Saturday after the changes happen. And, and really want you to handicap it and then leverage the information to get an advantage on the competition. And,
you mentioned something, how scratches can affect a race, and look what happened when Jack Christopher scratched, which was a very strange explanation of why they're scratching Jack Christopher, because that horse, Jackie's Warriors lost its last two Breeders' Cup chances, and now I think it's going to be pretty tough. Jackie's Warrior might go off as low as Flightline. And by the way, speaking of Flightline, we can't close this off without speaking a little bit about
All right, give me
Flightline.
your flight. Give me your flight line business.
A couple things I've said about Flightline, and I'm still going to say it until I see it go into the gate on Saturday. If Flightline runs, because he's never come back in 8 weeks ever before in its career, and he's getting ready. He's a 4-year-old getting ready to be a 5-year-old, and they've even talked about him running again at 5. Which, if they do, I hope he does, because I do believe he's a special horse. They matched his stride against Secretariat's stride, and his stride is about 2 feet longer than Secretariat's, which is kind of crazy. Uh, if you watch his workouts, he just eats up ground. It doesn't look like he's going fast, and next thing you know, he's running 58 and change, 59 flat, effortlessly in a 5 furlong work. The horse is a freak, and I do believe if he runs, he's going to win the race. And everybody else is running for second. I'm not going to give out who I think has a chance to beat him or run second, but I can. If you followed me on Twitter, I've already told you who I don't think is going to run second. But yeah, this horse is a freak, and if he wins, to me the curious thing will be what the time will be. Is he going to beat or be close to Ghost Sapper's time, which I think was 159 and 1, something like that? But I know it's 159. It's still the Breeders' Cup record. If he wins, I'm going to put him in Ghost Sapper's class. I'm not going to put him in Secretariat's class. You can't do that. Secretariat ran on turf, ran on dirt, ran it short, ran it long, ran against huge fields. And I forget how many races Secretariat ran. I want to say he ran in 24. So, and he won the Triple Crown, and he set records that still stand today. So let's not talk about that yet, okay? Let's not jump the gun. But a freak of a horse, a special horse for sure.
Well, there's one thing that Secretariat and Eddie C has that Flightline doesn't. You know what it is?
Go ahead.
It's a big heart. It's a big heart, Eddie. Secretariat had the biggest heart.
Double the size of heart. That's true. I appreciate you including me in that.
Is back, Messier. And
yes.
I'm excited to see Messier. And I know Messier's been on the bench for a little bit, 182 days. So I'm excited to see Messier. I really believed in that horse during the whole Breeders' Cup season. So, I mean, the Derby Trail. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what Messier is going to bring back. He's back with Bob Baffert. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen there.
Yeah, he definitely tailed off. So hopefully whatever may have set him off a little bit, they got him back up. And I'd like to see a big performance from him as well.
Yeah. So. And Eddie, I just wanted to call it out one more time because I have it in here. This is what the package is. You get the pay sheets for both Friday and Saturday that will be updated after scratches. I can't stress that enough because the other people that are out there are sending data and then they're just sending data and you're looking at it. To me, that most important thing is what happens after the changes happens. So stay tuned for that. That will be emailed out to everybody that buys the package. So you'll get it. I know there's a limit on how many link clicks you can make and all that stuff, just so there's no confusion. We'll put that out on email. Pace plays, again, will be identified. And then notebook picks. Eddie's working hard. He's going to get all that stuff out. You guys are going to have it all on a PDF too, by the way. And we don't talk about that enough, but PDFs are so nice to manage because a lot of people are on their cell phone. A lot of people are on their iPads, and a PDF just looks fantastic. And that's what we're going to give you going into the Breeders' Cup. But I'm looking forward to it, Eddie.
Yeah, me too. And I do want to stress one thing to all our followers and listeners. This isn't for us to make money, guys. This is literally for this Breeders' Cup. This is just for us to get a little something back for the time and effort that we've put in, not just for us, but for you all. $20, you're not going to get better information for $20. It's not $19.99. It's not $49.99. It's a clean $20. That's all we're asking for for all the hard work that we put into it. And it's good information. If you've been following us in Saratoga, I'm not gonna stick my chest out there, but I'm gonna tell you we're better than most. So take advantage of it and let's have a big weekend.
Thank you. So
All right,
more to come. We'll go get stuff out there. Appreciate all you guys. Anything else?
only this, Chris.
I love it. All right. Everybody have a fantastic, successful Breeders' Cup, whatever you're doing. And hopefully you get to play along here with the pay sheets. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Chris.